Welcome to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. I feature Olympians, CEOs, disruptors, authors, professional athletes, and the best of the best, where they share their stories of resilience with my lens on leadership and culture. Let's get started. Greetings and welcome to this episode of Heartbeat for Hire. I am thrilled to bring to you one of my favorite culture crusaders, Jody Thompson, to the show today. She's the founding principal of CultureRx, headquartered in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Jody is a keynote presenter on the future workplace and has been featured on the covers of BusinessWeek, New York Times, Time Magazine, USA Today, and on Good Morning America, CNBC, MSNBC, CNN, just to name a few. There was a dozen more. She has co-authored 2 best-selling books on the modern workplace and contemporary management principles: Why Work Sucks and How to Fix It, Why Managing Sucks and How to Fix It. She's currently working on her 3rd book, The Autonomy Economy, which I cannot wait to read. Jody works with select organizations to bring them to a state of sustainable high performance. And for the past 12 years, she has personally facilitated the change management, communication, and training process in organizations across multiple industries with a variety of roles, including retail, manufacturing, government, professional services, and education in both the private and public sectors. That was a mouthful. Welcome to the show, Jody.
Wow, that was exhausting to listen to all that, wasn't it? Oh, I love being here today. Thanks, Lindsay, for having me.
It is my absolute pleasure. So the first question I ask of every guest on the show is, for those that don't know you, will you share your story?
So I'm going to share a short version of my story.
Cool.
So back in 2005, I was working at a big corporation, and I'm in the sort of the middle of the behaviors and the culture and how we all need to act and get in at 8 and stay past 5 and show up earlier, go to lots of meetings. And I just thought, this is broken. Number one, nobody knows what they're doing. We're just shuffling paper around. Yeah. And we're really giving up so much of our lives to putting in time. I call it doing time.
Yeah.
And having somebody else control that and not really feeling engaged and just not feeling like you're living your whole life personally and professionally.
Yeah.
So I was tasked with, Callie Ressler and I worked with her at that time, of really looking at the workplace and saying, how do we disrupt something that is so strong for 75 years so that we can evolve into something that's past policy-based hybrid? Like, we need something totally different. Now, I will tell a little part of my story that is a little bit scary, in that while Callie and I were putting together this idea and we were experimenting with teams, I was really excited. Like, I was so happy to come in every day. And one of the values that we had there was having fun while doing the best. And I was taken into my boss's office and I was told I was having too much fun. So these are the kind of things, I think, Lindsay, that people that are trying to really make change run into.
Yeah.
So then he called me a zealot.
Mm.
So then I went to somebody else in the organization, way high up, innovation VP, and said, I need some help because they're calling me a zealot. And he was so excited to hear that. We need more people that are willing to step out and call a spade a spade. Yeah. So he said, just don't get on a performance plan. I said, I'll do my best. The next day, I got put on a performance plan. Now, I will say this for your listeners. The teams I was working with had the highest productivity, the highest engagement. Yep. They were, nobody was leaving. People were trying to get on their teams, yet I was put on this PIP and told that I was making human resources uncomfortable.
Oh.
So my plan to get out of my PIP was to mea culpa to everybody in HR. Now there's 200 people in HR.
God.
So I called a big meeting. But, to make a long story short, when you're in an organization and you can see sort of past the behaviors and past what's the right thing to do and how to get ahead and how to play the game and all of those things, and you just step back, you start to see, we have got to change. People are not living their lives at all.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I had to chuckle because I was just, my friend Samantha McKenna had a post today is talking about being an overly enthusiastic, extra smiley leader and how people didn't take her seriously. And I responded with a resounding yes, yes, yes. I mean, I've been told this before, and usually it's from the pale male and stale, stodgy guys who I don't want to work for or have as a client anyway. And fun is such a strategic way to work. I think leaders are starting to learn that. But I love that that's a piece that you focus on. And it's certainly something I focus on too. You've got to laugh. You've got to find the humor. That's what gets you through your day. And the reality is people don't quit companies, they're quitting people. And when you have that kind of leadership at the helm, it's very dangerous. So you have a concept I love, and it's called ROWE. Will you tell people what ROWE is and how you use it and all the stuff?
So ROWE, the results only work environment. And I have to say, some people get it wrong. They say oriented. And a results oriented work environment is just kind of the old game.
Yeah.
But the results only work environment is a system where a culture is built on 100% autonomy and 100% accountability.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about that is that most organizations today think that they're ROWE if they allow some people, right, to follow the hybrid policy of 2 days in and 3 days out.
Yeah.
And that is just more control. And when you look at what social science has said since the mid 70s, flexibility is not the answer. Autonomy is the answer. And we're afraid to kind of let go of that piece of letting people be self-directed. And we forget that people don't know what they're supposed to be doing and they don't know how to measure it. So when you add accountability to it, and all of a sudden the manager is managing work and not you, it changes the whole game. It's pure management innovation. So we've worked with a lot of companies, as you know, Lindsay, and what comes out of this kind of adaptive change is a lot of things, unintended consequences that you never expected.
Yeah.
With how people are now plugged into the mission of the organization, and they're closer to their teammates. Doesn't have anything to do with location. They're closer as human beings, and they're more willing to stay and drive the work forward. So
think about it. I love this because this is a way that I led when I was leading really big teams for IBM. And when you give people the space to do the jobs they're hired for, all of a sudden they feel safer. They feel invested in, they feel a reason to be connected, and they start to lean on each other. You're forging this opportunity for people to relate and collaborate and innovate and create new best practices because people don't feel somebody is hanging over their head like, did you do this? Did you do this? I always say, no one was ever inspired through micromanagement. Nobody. That is like the least inspiring way to lead and the most insecure way to lead. So this is
totally
such
agree.
the antithesis of that. And I love it so, so much. Can you just give some examples, some more examples of what autonomy looks like to leaders that want to do this, but may not know how?
So autonomy is the most difficult concept for an organization to evolve towards or sort of wrap their mindset around, because it takes all of the control for time and location away from leadership.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we talk about a lot when we go into organizations is the language of the organization from leadership all the way through keeps people locked into that notion of, I owe the organization time. Like I might say, well, where's Lindsay? She always comes in at 10 o'clock. How come she doesn't get here on time? So what all those little comments are, we call it sludge, is people making sure that the culture stays what it is.
Yeah.
Lindsay's out of culture. She needs to get back in. Why isn't she here at 8 o'clock? Well, I wish I had a kid and could leave at 4 o'clock every day. This is the language of work that's not about the work. And so for you as a leader, you already had the notion in your head of how to unleash people. But because the mindset of the organization is about, I pay you to give me time. Leadership, unfortunately, is just stuck in that system. Yeah. And even if they try to let go, the system draws them back in. It's like any innovation, an organization, I call it the giant hairball, is going to try to kill it. Yeah. So if you're able to, as a leader, step outside of that and lead in a different way, which says, I trust you to do what you need to do. And oh, by the way, I'm going to help you become crystal clear about what I need to see. And it's not, I need to see you in your desk every day.
That's right.
It's, I need to see the results of your work. And so let's get clear about that. And if you're confused, come back to me. I'm your results coach now, and I will help you. But I'm not going to say everybody needs to be in person in a meeting on Wednesday. That's not autonomy.
No.
Come in 2 days a week and I let you work from home. Not autonomy.
No.
That's control.
That word "let" is a dangerous word. And I think this whole conversation around hybrid, remote, and coming out of the pandy, I mean, we had all these people were working from home for the first time. Now, I worked from home for more than 20 years, so I understood what that was. There was never a question of how I was getting my work done. And I was in sales, so I was answering to clients. I was in client offices more than I was in my company offices, but I had the space to see my children grow up. I could work odd hours if I needed to, and I was able to always get my work done because I had leaders who valued me, supported me, and not all the time, but basically said, girl, do your job. I got you. I got your back. And those words are so compelling. I think when people feel that support from their leaders, they're really able to do things they never could before. And that whole, I let you work from home, you should be grateful. That is not good culture. And culture belongs to everyone. That's the other thing that, I know both you and I talk about. If you're kvetching over at the water cooler and you're whining that you don't like some policy or some manager, you're part of the problem. If you want the culture to change, do something about it. Lead with your heart, support people, give a recommendation, do something that changes the way that you work each day. So I love that.
And that's so perfect, Lindsay. It's something that we know deep in our DNA is the right way. And it's the right way to lead, and it's the right way to be, and all of those things. But I think what happens to leadership is because they're part of still part of a culture, right, that doesn't operate that way. It's hard to step out of that because then you look like you're not doing what you're supposed to do. You're not following the way that all of the rest of us are doing. And so I know you know this, but when we go into organizations, we make sure that every single person goes through the experience. CEO, CFO, all the way through, because it's really, like you said, culture is our behaviors.
Yeah.
And so if you just talk to managers or you just talk to leaders, the rest of the organization is going, what happened to them? I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing right now. I'm still playing the old game. I'm still showing up and going to lots of meetings.
And what you're doing by involving everyone is you're creating permanence. You're changing the fabric of the company itself. And if you're lucky enough to have a leadership team that recognizes they want to make change, then you're on your way. It's the big challenge comes when you have a leader who says they're aligned to their mission and then stands on tables and yells or embarrasses people and wonders why their culture is suffering. That's the big danger. So when you're doing your workshops and facilitating this work, what are some of the results that you see, like initially and then long term?
There's a lot of things that come out of it. There was actually a 6-year longitudinal study done on this kind of environment that showed things like, and this blew my mind. So they took saliva swabs of the people in the results only work environment to see what their cortisol levels were. And then they had a control group, and then they did saliva swabs of all the family members.
Oh, wow.
And what they learned was the people in a row in a results only work environment and their families all reduced their stress level.
Yeah.
So that says something that's really interesting to me about how this permeates out. Yeah. Now, the other thing we see in it, and it's what you should see, attraction goes up. People want to stay, so you're not going to have that turnover all the time. Your health and wellness equation starts to shift as people start to take care of their health more.
Attention, visionary leaders. Are you ready to elevate your leadership style and create an exceptional workplace that stands out from the crowd? I'm here to introduce you to a game-changing resource that will transform the way you lead and shape your company culture. It's time to embrace the power of top-down culture. This practical guide empowers your leadership for lasting success helping you create a workplace where everyone thrives. Get top-down culture today, and let's reshape the future of leadership together.
So there's, I could go on and on and on, but what I'm trying to say is that the leaders out there that have some courage to actually break the status quo, they will get way more back than they ever thought they would. In fact, during the study with the NIH and the University of Minnesota, they showed that the return on investment was 168%. Now that I mean, you can tell people that,
Yeah,
but they're like, yeah, we're good. You know what I mean? So it's hard. It's hard to get your mind around the type of change that we're asking for.
yeah.
And even though we have a process and it works and we have tons of case studies, there's still a lot of trepidation.
Yeah.
And there's a big belief, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this, Lindsay.
Yeah.
There's a belief that the policy-based hybrid is autonomy.
No.
So
No,
that's what we're banging our head against right now.
Yeah. And I think, it's such a deep rooted problem with the way that we built our work culture in this country. I mean, it was generally male. It was, punch in, you were there for your time. So there are some deep rooted things that are hard to eradicate. And I think in sales, especially, I see it so often where you find the people that are high producers and you say, I want to magnify that, I'm going to make them a manager. Well, a lot of those high producers don't give a crap about anybody besides themselves. And you're putting them in a leadership role. Oh, the damage they can do. And they probably manage up very well. So they cover their tracks and nobody knows how bad people are suffering. And then you watch them get promoted and they are a tyrant and an ogre and a really poor leader. And that unfortunately permeates, and that's why people leave. So getting leaders to kind of stop that process and ask the question that I think is so important is, why do you want to go into leadership? That's a really important question, because if they answer like, well, I want to climb the ladder, isn't that the next thing I'm supposed to do? And how do I advance my career? Not the right motivation. I want to see people win. I want to create an environment where people thrive. That's a good answer. I think changing that dialogue and that mindset is so important. And then the hybrid conversation is irrelevant. Like that just, it's unnecessary. So I'm in this with you on that battle for remote and hybrid. And I just don't think it's necessary. I think, yes, when you're in person, there's a different energy. You connect differently, and there is a place and a time and a reason for doing it. But does it need to be every day? Absolutely not. And
well, I think, Lindsay, the most important thing is it doesn't need to be mandated.
No.
And that's the thing that we're running into right now is organizations are trying to, pandemic, everybody at home. Oh no, we can't pin Pandora back in the box. What are we going to do? Well, let's give them a little bit of, they can work from home, but they have to get on at 8 and they have to be available till 5. We haven't changed anything. No. It's the same. The same.
Well, and let's think about it. Nowadays, you've got Slack on your phone. You can Zoom from your phone. This is your office now. So do you really need to be attached to a computer to be productive? I doubt it. I would argue you don't, but
right. I'm with you. In fact, I like to say to people, this is so simple. If you're in an office and you say, where's Bob? That right there is the problem. What do you mean, where's Bob?
Yeah.
Right
here. We can find him. Yeah.
What do you need from Bob?
Yeah.
Because Bob doesn't know where he needs to be until he knows or she knows what you need.
Yeah.
So if you start right out of the starting gate of interacting with people, let them know what you need and when you need it. Yeah. Be clear, not next week, not ASAP. And then people can plan their lives better because I know I have this due then, I'm doing this and that. And nobody's saying, where's Jody? Because she's on the planet. She's doing her work. Let's focus on that and not how many people badged in today.
Oh, girl, we could do like a whole hour on this conversation.
I know we could talk the rest of the day, I'm sure.
So let's talk about some of the best qualities in leaders that you're seeing post working with you, or even the ones that haven't worked with you that you just really were inspired by?
I'm really inspired by leaders who display curiosity
Yeah.
and courage. And they lead with those two things. You know, I've seen it in action. So I could be with a C-suite that behaves one way and a
Right.
C-suite that behaves the other. And I think what's important is the kind of change we're trying to create, Lindsay, you're never going to get consensus.
Yeah.
If you're a consensus driven leader and you want everybody to shake their head up and down, you're not doing real change,
No.
because they're all going, yeah, let's do that. Let's give everybody a Fitbit. Great.
Yeah.
So it's the leaders that are able to lead in a way of curiosity and courage and support, and say, you know what, I'm going to be with you on this journey. This is an important journey for our organization. I know it's going to be difficult, but let's go together.
Yeah. You hit on something that I really like. And I think a lot of people confuse heart-centered leadership with like sunshine and daisies and not being able to deliver tough messages. And actually, it just makes those tough messages a little easier to deliver. And when you can be authentic, and when you can always lead with your heart and say, yeah, guys, I have some tough news to share. It's probably going to make you uncomfortable, but this is part of my job. I'm a leader. I have to share this with you. And we have ways to work through this, but here's what I have to say. First of all, if you've been leading this way for any amount of time, they're going to feel bad that you have to deliver this message in the first place.
It's true.
And they're going to want to support you.
True.
I think, that's a mistake that people think, if, being authentic and sharing your vulnerability makes you less than, it actually makes you so much more relatable. So
Right.
yeah.
People want to follow you then. They want to be with you. They want to help.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. They want
That's
the
right.
organization to succeed. So
Well, and the leaders that I think are the ones that say, I sucked at this for the longest time, and I got some help and I got really good at it. And all of a sudden they see the growth. They don't see the fact that you were bad at it. They see how you fixed it, and they're inspired
right.
and want to change too. And so I love when we can have those aha moments. So I
Yeah.
think that's great. So, I mean, I don't have to ask you how important culture is to a company, because that's your whole reason for being. But one of the questions I love to ask is, what inspires you?
What inspires me is when I see people, this is kind of trite, but fast failing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they will get out there and they will see the finish line and they will try to get there, and they might trip and they might, somebody might push them out of the way, but they have a focus and they have a belief, and they will work towards it. I love that kind of energy that people have that want to actually change lives and be better. And that's what inspires me. I think I get, very drained by that'll never work.
Yeah.
That's what drains me. I have been asked the same questions for 17 years. I'm waiting for a new question to come in. It's the same because we're all stuck in the system. I like to call it the matrix,
Yeah.
where I'm unplugging people,
Mm-hmm.
but everybody else is in the matrix, so they don't see what they don't see.
No.
So I get really, I have to be calm and keep moving forward. But I get inspired by those leaders who really say they want to make change,
Yeah.
and then they show they want to make change.
Yeah, I love that too. You reminded me of a really funny story. One of my favorite guests on the show, Siri Lindley, she's a world champion triathlete. And before she was a world champion, she had to try a few triathlons, and she wasn't very good at it. And her first one, she did her entire run with her bike helmet on. And so everybody laughed at her, and she came in dead last. But this is a woman who didn't know how to swim, completed her first triathlon, and in 6 years became a world champion. So would she ever run with a bike helmet on again? Of course not.
Right.
But she can laugh about that moment, and she tells that story, and I just chuckle every time. But that image of somebody like killing themselves,
I know.
and look at what she's
Most people would stop. They would just say, I can't do this. I mean,
yeah.
I have to bring this in. I mean, just look at Taylor Swift.
I know.
That is somebody that has that I know who I am.
Yep.
And I'm going to do my art, and people are going to try to push me down every single day.
And they did.
And they still do. And she's doing what she loves, and she's very creative, and she's very kind.
Yep.
And she reinvents herself too along the way in many different ways.
Totally.
But that's, I think the type of spirit that is exciting to me.
Well, and she lifts others up. And that's the thing that I think we don't have enough of in leadership. And what I think leaders really can learn from is when you share the spotlight and when you give people credit for ideas and share with a larger group something great that they've done, it makes you a more generous leader. It creates psychological safety. It makes people want to work for you more and work for you in terms of like, I'm going to be your advocate. I'm going to help you proceed with tough stuff. And yeah, I think she does a brilliant job of that. So another question for you. What would you like your legacy to be?
I want my legacy to be that I worked hard to try to make a difference in people's lives, and I never gave up.
Well, you're on your way. So good job with that.
Keep at it.
What's next for Jody?
Well, what's next for me, and you mentioned this at the beginning, I'm working on my third book.
Yep.
And what I'm excited about with that book is I'm going to bring, social science forward with leaders. So leaders that have gone through this journey, and talk about, why people like Dan Pink and Robert Karasek and Todd Rose and the people that really understand and see the challenge that we have. I'm going to bring that to life.
Love it.
So I'm really excited about that. And I'm excited about getting out and speaking again.
Yeah.
I've run into this kind of weird thing that says, if you're not putting a book out every 2 years, you're who are you, right?
No.
Oh, you mean you put out a book in 2008? Yeah, we don't want you, right? So,
oh my God. First of all, that is just untrue. And you are a hilarious speaker. I've seen your stuff. People would be delighted to have you in their space. So yeah, I mean, I also just wrote a book, so it helps with the speaking stuff. But
yes,
you and I have enough to say without the books, and the books are a great leave behind. Sure. So no, do not subscribe to that. That is I just want to keep the conversation going. I want to continue conversations with human resources about how they can help, and talk to leaders and give people a different perspective. Have you looked at it this way? Yeah.
I want people to leave feeling like, oh, I can kind of feel my skin. Like I'm something happened and now I can't get it out of my head. I want to continue to foster that as much as I can. So I'm looking forward to this book coming out and continuing to march forward.
I am too, and I want a signed copy. I cannot wait to read it.
Oh, absolutely.
So much the fabric of what I believe, and I'm so excited for it to come out. When is it supposed to come out?
We're actually looking at fall.
Okay.
I mean, it seems like forever away, doesn't it? Yeah. But we're going to blink and it's going to be, oh my goodness, summer went by again.
Yep.
So,
well, I can't wait. And I'm so delighted you were on the show, Jody. Thank you for being such a fantastic guest.
Of course. I'm so happy to be as part of your network, and that we are, going forward with the same kind of charge. Oh, we're in each other's circle now. I'm so grateful.
You can't get rid of me. Sorry, lady.
Oh, I would never want to.
Oh, well, thank you for listening to this episode of Heartbeat for Hire. If you liked what you heard, please subscribe to my YouTube channel or leave a 5-star review on Apple or Spotify. Thank you for listening and have a great day. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Heartbeat for Hire podcast. If you liked what you heard, please consider leaving a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would be ever so grateful. I hope you found it useful. Have a wonderful day.